Welcome back, everyone. Today we are unpacking something truly unsettling, a piece of modern lore that is honestly going to completely change how you view your next late night commute. We're looking at this fascinating recent analysis from Midnight Static, and they dive deep into a haunting variation of the classic last passenger legend. It's called the Fare to the Void. In this explainer, we're going to break down the sheer urban dread of this psychological thriller, pull apart the terrifying mechanics of its central anomaly, and explore what it actually says about our own fractured reality. Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine you're a driver, just doing your job, trying to get through the night, and you suddenly realize your reality has been entirely hijacked. Because out of nowhere, the meter isn't tracking miles, it's tracking your remaining minutes of life. It's an absolutely brilliant, incredibly effective psychological trap. It takes this mundane, everyday object, the taximeter, something we usually just look out with, mild financial annoyance, and literally turns it into an unrelenting, horrific countdown clock for your own existence. This is the core anomaly that the Midnight Static analysis centers around, and man, it sets the perfect stage for a truly inescapable nightmare. Let's look at the first phase, the midnight pickup. To truly understand how this trap closes around the driver, we've got to look at how the whole setup begins. Picture this. It's 2 a.m. The city streets are slick with rain. You're just a driver looking to finish your shift. We've all been on those late, quiet drives where the world feels just a little off-kilter, right? But then comes the passenger. Now, the analysis specifically notes that this person doesn't feel human. They feel less like a person and more like this heavy, cold shadow just sitting there in your backseat. That sensory dread is totally palpable. And the final, chilling detail that locks the nightmare in place, the passenger gives a destination that makes absolutely zero sense. They ask to be taken to a building that was demolished over 30 years ago. That impossibility, that's your first real warning that you've crossed over into something else entirely.
Which brings us to part 2, the deadly meter.
That impossible destination, that is the catalyst. The second you pull away from the curb, the true nature of the trap reveals itself. Normally, obviously, you have a routine trip. You drive, the meter tracks distance, and it calculates the fare cost. Basic cause and effect. But inside the trap, the moment that car moves toward that non-existent destination, the meter completely changes function. It actually begins counting down the driver's remaining minutes of life. What makes this so compelling in the Midnight Static analysis is how it highlights the exact moment the rules of our world just stop applying. You are no longer in a financial transaction. You are in a desperate fight for survival inside a supernatural anomaly. Moving on to Section 3, Spectral Transit System. So you gotta wonder, who exactly is in the back seat? Who or what is orchestrating this whole nightmare? Well, the sheer scale of this horror is massive. The passenger isn't just some ghost wanting to go home. They are an ancient entity. And they're using the modern rideshare setup to collect drivers. Basically, these entities are harvesting human souls to power a spectral transit system. It's this paranormal network that runs entirely on the fringes of our reality. They literally need these drivers to keep their terrifying phantom infrastructure running for another century. It completely recontextualizes the passenger, right? They go from being a mere spooky encounter to a predator acting as a cog in an ancient paranormal machine. Now, you might be thinking, just stop the car and get out, right? Well, so the crucial point is, if your action is to stop the car before the countdown reaches 0, the consequence is immediate. You become the next lost soul waiting on a non-existent curb. There is literally no loophole. There is a harsh, inescapable penalty for trying to end the ride early. If you try to break the rules of the trap, you don't just lose a fare, you are instantly absorbed into the anomaly. You become part of the very system that hunted you, doomed to wait forever on a curb that doesn't even exist on any map. It is just a perfect no-win scenario of psychological horror. Next up, Section 4, Urban Dread and Static. Taking a step back from the mechanics of the story for a second, Midnight Static draws this really direct line between this tale and our actual real-world anxieties. Think about the urban anomalies we see today, the stuff that goes viral. CCTV footage that police absolutely cannot explain. Elevators opening onto non-existent floors. That one TikTok account that predicted deaths, YouTubers vanishing live on camera, or a missing person suddenly posting online a decade later. What do all these have in common with our spectral taxi? They all represent a terrifying collision of the digital world and the physical world. They are these glitches, moments where the boundaries of what is possible completely break down, and it manifests as this creeping, unavoidable dread in our modern hyper-connected lives. And that brings us to the thematic conclusion of the whole analysis. The static in our lives is often trying to tell us something terrifying. Whether it is a literal voice coming from inside a wall, a haunted website you definitely shouldn't visit, or an impossible passenger in your rearview mirror, these are all symptoms. They're symptoms of a fractured reality bleeding into our own. The anomalies, those unexplainable glitches in our daily routines, that is the static. And if we actually tune into it, the message is usually one of profound existential horror. Which leaves us right here at the end of our explainer with one incredibly unsettling question. What's in your rearview mirror? Seriously, the next time you're driving late at night, the streets are slick, and you catch a shadow in the back seat that feels just a little too heavy and a little too cold, are you going to look closely? Or will you just keep your eyes glued to the road and pray that meter is only tracking miles? Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating source material. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you in the next explainer.